Okay, now we're rolling. We got it.
All
Welcome,
right.
welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of if we've had the parents of a person that we've been on that's been on here before. I don't think so. You might be the first. I'm excited. I want
Oh, awesome.
I want to do an episode with you and Anthony together after this. Did he tell you about
Okay.
this?
No, he didn't. No.
Oh, okay. The idea is because I want to do like a series of like kids and parents that sold
Mhm.
because I think that's a fascinating like, because often we've asked people here, like, "Hey, would you have your kids sell books?" And they go, "No." I go, "Oh, yeah, sure," or whatever, but we haven't had actually someone who's like, "Hey, my kid sold and he's right here or she's right here." So,
Yeah, yeah.
oh,
That
man.
would be awesome.
Yeah, welcome
I was
to the
gonna
sh
say one thing we talked about, like, when me and Anthony were comparing summers, I think I did better than him in both summers. We'll have to compare
Oh,
that.
that's my
Yeah,
point. Can you imagine that? Like, you
yeah.
can't beat your parents? Oh, I would like to think I'd be that's such a driver, that I'm such a competitive person. I'd be like, "My mom sold, I'm gonna kick her ass."
Yeah.
Although it's a different time frame though, That's it's so things have changed in so many different ways.
Yep,
Um,
definitely.
I guess we'll talk about that as we go on. But hey, welcome. Thank you so much for being on here. For
Yeah.
people who don't know, let me tell a little bit about who we have on the show here. So today with me is Gina Conroy, and this is exciting. She's Anthony Conroy's mother, who we had on back early on. I think it was like episode 6, way early on in
Oh,
our
wow.
lifetime. Yeah, and we're actually going to record with him again tonight. Did you know that? I don't know if he told you because
No,
we
I
keep.
didn't. I just saw him for Thanksgiving, so
Yeah,
no, he
we
didn't
were
tell
supposed to
me.
record last week, but I got the vid, and so we had to
Mhm.
bump it a week. So anyway, so we'll be recording with him later tonight, and so that's super exciting. So Gina's originally from New York, but she's currently living in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So for 2 summers with the education division in 1990 and 1991, great summers. Both of those summers were really good summers overall for the company, from what I understand. Gina went to Oral Roberts University and is currently an author, a writing coach, and recent founder of Tulsa Dating Adventures, and also a life balance coach. With her favorite score being number 3, I will persist until I succeed. So exciting! Welcome to the show, Gina.
Thank you.
Man. Okay, so before we dive in, a couple of quick announcements for people who are listening. One, make sure you follow us on Patreon. We launched our Patreon. There's some bonuses in there you can get for being a supporter. You can also support us for $3, and you get nothing other than feeling great that you're supporting us. Yay! That being said, it does help. We're trying to get away from ads and stuff. So in order to do that, we need to get funding from something else. And so we thought maybe some alumni would like to help out, or people who listen who would like to help. So feel free to go down patreon.com/ponytails and you'll find us there. And then of course, this episode is brought to you by Enlight Energy. So thank you, Julio and Alex, for helping us out. It does, every penny goes a long way to keep the lights on here, and it is so great to be able to continue to do this. So anybody who helps us like that is awesome. We always welcome to do that. Julio and Alex are killing it in the solar industry, and they are currently looking for folks who might be going into a different career, consider going into solar. Wonderful company, excellent culture. Go check out the episode with Julio if you want more information for that. So anyway, shout out to you guys. Thank you so much. All right, Gina, let's jump into this thing. I always like to say, what are you up to now? Tell us about since you left books and kind of like your journey so far. Maybe we can get some of the major highlights. I will probably interrupt you with just, tangential questions of something really
Okay.
interesting you say, but we'll just kind of take it from there. Some people just give us like the highlights since 1991,
Okay.
or some people give us the full detail of the story. I'll leave it up to you how you want to get us to today. But go, the mic is yours.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. It's been a long journey. So, 1991, I actually, I wouldn't recommend this, but I actually got engaged to someone on the book field who was what's the person above you? I don't know.
TSM
Anyway, he was
or
sales
FSL or something?
manager or something like that. Well, anyway, so we were in different headquarters and we were corresponding. We didn't have, cell phones back then. So it was all through letters and phone calls. And anyway, that's a whole nother story for another day. But yes.
Story for Bizzler.
So yeah, exactly. Story for Bizzler. I could a whole other episode on that. But
Fair enough.
so anyway, fast forward, I guess 4 kids, 20 years of marriage, wasn't the healthiest situation for us as just not the right people. And like I said, story for Bisler. But during that time, I had 4 kids. Anthony was my second, and I was raising them as well as doing a little writing, studying to be a writer. I've always wanted to be a writer since I was 8 years old. I found my old diary, and
Oh,
in it, I wrote when I was 8 years old, it said, I want to be a writer, a dancer, and maybe an acrobat too. And now when I teach my students, I tell them, pretty much I'm almost all 3. The first one
nice.
I started when I was 8 years old as a writer. I didn't start dancing, doing ballroom and all that until, I was in my 40s. And then, the acrobat, I don't know, I do some rock climbing, I do some, when you dance, you get your feet in the air, so that's acrobat. So I say, when you're young, some kids know what they want to do, and they shouldn't be deterred from their dreams. It really
Yeah.
is important for people to encourage them. So I was raising 4 kids, and when my youngest was about 2 years old, I felt like I was really going to start on my writing career, which basically one of the books that really dove me into actually fiction writing, because before that I went to school for nonfiction, journalism, all that. But then when I, read The Greatest Salesman in the World,
Mm.
that was one of the books, along with, oh, I can't even think of the other book I read in high school at the moment. But I really fell in love with story. Yeah.
Yeah. Now
Time.
you have a copy. Look at that. Sick. That is the coolest. Is that from your first summer or
I believe it is. And I have the whole set, the whole ancient set, I guess.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Sorry to interrupt.
So Oh,
I
that's okay. I was just in love with the storytelling, and I don't think I've read it since. So anyway, I started pursuing writing, going to writers conferences, and at the same time, we decided to homeschool. My oldest needed to be homeschooled. He was a typical boy in a private school,
mm.
kind of getting in trouble all the time, not for being a bad kid, but for not like sitting in a seat. He was always in the back row. He would get out. He would help his neighbor. And later on, we realized that he needed glasses. First of all, that's why he was getting out of his seat. He would interrupt the teacher because he was a perfectionist, but he was also gifted and impulsive. So we decided to take him out, and at
Yeah,
the
it's
same
smart.
time, I took Anthony out as well. Even though Anthony did great, he was my overachiever, and it was a good thing having him home and homeschooling him, because that's when I realized really how brilliant he was. I
Mm.
did not know, and he did great. But anyway, I had 4 kids from 2 to 10 that I decided to homeschool, and I was trying to write as well.
Oh
And
my
it was a
god.
crazy time, and very crazy. But during that time, I also developed some courses. I could not teach my kids writing for some reason. I could teach, every other subject, but I developed courses, and then I put them in a private school, and I taught my courses there. And then it just snowballed into online courses just recently in 2020. And I have a workbook out, mostly writing courses, creative writing, release the
Wow.
novel in you. So that kind of catches you up to 2016. Then, the end of a marriage, went through a really hard period the last 10 years. Because, when you're a stay at home homeschooling mom, it's not like you have a resume that
Right.
people respect, even though we
Sure.
kind of do everything. So it was hard to find a job, and I just started with $8 an hour jobs, $10 an hour jobs, even though I
Wow.
had a degree. And then I remember my last $13 an hour job, and these were all part time as well. No one wanted to hire me full time,
Sure.
and I was also teaching some courses, some outside like homeschool courses and camps. And I just developed a whole bunch of things, novel writing courses, spy kids courses. And then 2020 hit.
Mm.
And I remember none of it was online, but I had this goal. I really wanted to I found a journal that I had with all my goals in it. I'm sure that was a throwback to, Southwestern,
Where did
coming up
we
with
learn
all these
that?
goals. And so I went in there. Let me back up just a few minutes, few months, I should say. So it was January 2020, and I was getting burnt out. I was teaching at 3 homeschool co-ops. I was dragging my stuff from place to place. I was getting paid $25 an hour, but when you calculated all the time I was spending, it was like, what, $2 an hour?
Yeah,
I was just burnt out and I was ready for a change. And I was also dealing with losing child support in May because my youngest daughter, would turn 18. I was like, I'm not going to be able to pay the rent. There's no way, looking at what I'm doing,
sure.
it's not going to happen. So I was at a point in my spiritual life where, at the end of the marriage, I was like, God, I did everything the right way. What happened? So I was kind of in my like little rebellious teenage stage. I kind of still loved God, but I was like, I'm going to do, my own thing.
Mm,
And then I was coming back around. And it's like, okay, God, I got to trust you. The word says that you're going to provide for me. So I was like, all right, let's see it. I'm not going to worry. And so then in March, we had the shutdown. I'm like, oh, great. Now this is going to be even more interesting. I have no money because I was a teacher.
wow.
That's when I started getting emails from a company that I tried to teach at online in 2018 and 2019. I had a novel writing course. I'll just show it to you real quick. Release the novel in you.
Ooh,
And
ooh, that's cool.
nobody took the course like in 2018 and 2019. And I had 2 courses listed: Paint with Your Words and Release the Novel in You. And I'm like, oh, I kept getting these emails. I'm like, I already tried that. It's not going to work. Remember, I will persist until I succeed. I actually added something to that on the book field. I will persist until I succeed. And I don't know if I made it up. I kind of think I did, but who knows? And when I succeed, I will overachieve, and only then will I rest because I know I've done my best. So that's what I would chant on the book
Ooh,
field.
that's good. Write
So,
that
and I
down.
remember it.
Just people listening.
Yeah,
Ooh, that's good. Write
I
that
will.
down.
Um, and so I just kept getting these emails, and I was actually in a personal development course from Landmark Worldwide. That's just like, basically Southwestern on steroids. And I
Mm,
had really grown emotionally. I was finally able to manage my emotions. And I was in a course that said, just take opportunities, walk through doors. And yes, I talk with my hands. I'm Italian from New York. So, yeah.
good.
Um, so I just kept getting these emails, and I was like, all right, I already have my classes listed. What is it going to hurt to set some dates? And I set the dates, and they filled up with 15 students in 2 days each. I was like, and you get paid per student. I was like, well,
Ooh,
I don't know how to teach online. Nobody knew how to teach online. But then I just kept scheduling classes. And then as I'm teaching these classes and learning all the pitfalls to Zoom, like kids hijacking, you know, uh, the whiteboard or all these things, you kind of learn as you go, right? Setting those settings, dealing with a lot of kids. I had more parents want different um, courses, and I was teaching different courses live, but I didn't know how to put them online. So in the beginning, I was just teaching Release the Novel in You, a talking head with worksheets. But then so 2020, I was super busy. I wasn't bored.
yeah,
I
you were
wasn't,
moving.
sitting on the couch. I was building a whole curriculum, and I learned PowerPoint. I created worksheets, and I even one of my popular classes I would teach at after school camps was called Spy Kids, and Spy Kids is more like a logic. There's too many kids that are um, don't know how to think for themselves,
Mm,
and they
like
just
critical thinking
want.
skills are not there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a fun way, but it was very hands-on. There was like worksheets and codes and manipulative little puzzles, and I had to
Mhm.
figure out how to get it online, and I did. And for June, July, August, I actually doubled my income just on that one class. I was probably working 20 hours a
Wow.
week, five hours a day, 4 days a week, and I doubled my income. But so I basically got my financial miracle. I no longer worked for anyone else. I worked for myself completely. I reached that goal of teaching kids online all over the world. It just wasn't because I taught kids from China and Korea and Italy.
Mm,
And it was so fun when I was teaching this little spy kid, from Italy. He's like, teacher, what does this mean? I don't understand. Because the riddles are, um, when he's trying to translate the words,
Yeah,
but riddles
contextually
are
in
riddles.
language. Yeah, yeah. It's like
Yeah. So
if I translated a riddle from Spanish to English, it wouldn't it would not make sense at all. Even
yeah,
though
and
yeah.
so it was super fun. And then I think what the kids really loved and what I wanted to make different, because nowadays, you have all what are they called? Escape rooms, and it's all on the computer. But I wanted to keep the integrity of Spy Kids class, because at the end of the 8-day camp, I made a treasure hunt, a riddle, through the schools that I taught at, and so I created
Wow.
that online, and it was very mentally, draining for me, because I had to make sure that all the clues were able to be left in each person's home, and I learned a few things too, like not everyone has a garage, or not
Yeah,
everyone has whatever, so I've tweaked things, and I've tried to keep it just across the board. But yeah, at the end of the 8 days of training, they have to go on the treasure hunt, on a mission. On the mission, and when they complete the mission, then they earn their Spy Kids name and their spy badge.
that is so cool.
So that's basically
So
what I'm doing.
okay, so I have so many questions because this is
I
so
know. I'm
awesome.
sorry.
No, no, it's great. I this is a pretty typical start to an episode, and I love it. Just people tell me everything that's happening. I'm like, oh my gosh, can I just dig
Yeah.
into this? Okay, so I
Yeah.
guess question number one. Let's go back with the. I want to get to the school and teaching stuff because that's super
Uh-huh.
interesting, especially with the pandemic and how things changed. So,
Yeah.
but let's back up. So first, writing. So you write fiction. You've published some books, obviously. First of all, where can I find these? How can I go get some books?
Yeah. Currently, they're on. I got the rights back to them, which is great because now
Yeah,
I
that's
own
huge.
them.
Yeah,
And I had this, I'll just show you. This is an interesting story too. They're all on Amazon, let's just say, or
okay.
you can find them through my website. I want to build out my own platform, my own place.
Yeah.
But what was interesting about this story, real quick, is that it doesn't have, a spine. And the reason was it was really supposed to be 20,000 words, and it ended up being 67,000 words. And I was part of a group,
Nice.
but that was I wrote that in 2018, and that was my proof to myself, like, during my marriage and my kids, raising them and homeschooling, I had a problem with completing books. So I have about a dozen half-finished novels, but I have 3 published.
Nice.
So, with that one in 2018, it was like I needed accountability. So I joined the 12 Mysteries of Christmas, which was 6 to 12 people had to write these stories. And I knew that if I was accountable to someone else, I was going to do it. So I
Mm,
basically put it off for 6 months. And then I was like, oh no, I have to write this book in 6 months. And my first novel, Digging Up Death, which has an archaeology theme, because I was homeschooling my kids, that's where a lot of my books come from. I was just like,
yeah,
and Anthony will tell you, ask him about that. I stayed in archaeology, Egyptian archaeology, for like 6 months. It was just so fascinating. And
it
then I
is
created this
fascinating.
story. But it took me 7 years to write that book. But Golden Bells Are Ringing took me 6 months. Now, I didn't have a life, but I did it.
Yeah,
And the interesting thing about the story is, like, I was like, is this story ever going to end? I was just writing it. And then when I counted it, like I said, it was only supposed to be 20,000 words. It ended up being 67,000 words. So it was a complete novel. And
that's
I finally
amazing.
got I don't have the book yet, but I finally got the spine. I had to, match because I didn't make the cover. I had to match it. Something that pretty much took me 20 minutes, I put off for 5 years.
That's wild.
And isn't that what we do? A lot of times it's all mental. We just put things off, and where it's been hanging over my head for 5 years, and it took me because I'm going to start a book club with the book. So there was the motivation to get it done.
That's beautiful.
So
So you write fiction, and do you read a lot of fiction too, or like where do you draw inspiration from? You mentioned a little bit of Agmendino, but like is there any?
yeah,
You mentioned your kids as
well,
well from
good
like your
question.
experiences, but are there authors and stuff that you like?
So I started out in nonfiction with magazine writing, and then I went to fiction. I don't read a lot of fiction anymore. I used to, but now it's more like self-help books. I go through
Yeah.
phases. I did pick up I have a lot of friends who write too, and so some of them are not my style. I do love. I mostly read in the Christian market, unless there's a really good book, like that someone recommends. Then I'll sit down and read it. I really should read more, and I'm working on better nighttime habits. Turning off that
Yeah.
TV so I can get up and write. That's what I want to do. So yeah, I did pick up a novel that one of my friends wrote. Um, so I would say one of my favorite authors, I don't think she writes that much anymore because here's the thing. I think a lot of the best and most brilliant authors, they don't make the money. They
Yeah.
don't churn out the books. It's the ones, especially, people love romances. I'm not really big into romances, but you have your genres that people just want the next book and the next book and the next book. And if you can't crank out a book in 2 to 3 months and build a following, then you're not going to make the money. So
Yeah.
Lisa Sampson, her books are brilliant and I love them. She's the one that you have your favorite books on your shelf that you just don't want to get rid of. She's one of them.
Ah,
The Passion of Mary Margaret was brilliant. It's about a nun who, wants to say, and it's been a while since I read it, but it's almost written in a diary form, and Jesus asks her to do something that she would never do to love to love people, and it's
wow.
just a really, really interesting story. So,
That's awesome. I just think I find it fascinating. I as an author, I only just published one book, but it's always fascinated to me, um, like where people get their inspiration from. So anytime I have anybody on
mhm,
here who's published anything, I just, like, where did that come from? Because that it takes guts to do that. And I know, it's a little bit self-aggrandized. Is that how you say it? Like, I'm talking about myself a little bit because 'cause I'm including it,
yeah,
but even like, I thought this before I wrote a book, which was when people
yeah. I
when
want
when
to
you
know what you
like,
wrote.
when
What book
people,
is
like,
that?
have okay, so my book's, it's just the story of my family moving from Colombia to the United States, and
Okay,
I document in
nonfiction.
95
Is
per
it more
it
like a
it's
memoir
it's
or
it's like a memoir, but it's ni oh, I say it's fiction technically because not everything is exactly true. It's some of the
okay?
things I needed to rearrange order-wise or mix 2 events into 1 to make it more
Hmm.
seamless for the literary art aspect of it from a storytelling standpoint. But generally
Right.
speaking, 95% of it all is to a T. Um, so you can't say it's nonfiction if there's even any little bit of embellishments or
Yeah.
whatever.
You might not want
Uh,
to if you, like, talk about people too, so
yeah, that's actually the main reason. I've never
mhm.
actually said that out loud, but one of the biggest reasons we had to change stuff is because some people did not want to be in the story publicly, and so we were like,
Yes,
"All right, we're
yeah.
gonna change
Mhm.
that. Didn't happen to that person exactly." Anyway,
Yeah.
but I to me, okay, so when you post nowadays on, like, Facebook,
Mhm.
right, or social media, it you write 2 paragraphs, and I'm talking about the general, not you, Gina, but people in general. People will post, like,
Right.
something about their favorite football team or politics or some dumb shit, and so they'll say that,
Yeah.
and even when you publish those 2 paragraphs, you're still, like, saying, "Hey, this is what I believe in," and you feel really passionate about that, but there's no risk to that. You can delete it, you can edit it, you can take it, like, pretend like it didn't exist. Some people still maybe find it, but generally speaking, it's not out there. Whereas
Mhm.
when you write a book, it's not 2 paragraphs. You're digging deep into something inside of you to get all because 67,000 words, is
Yeah.
not nothing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're
Right,
not
right.
writing like 350,000 words like Lord of the Rings, but nobody's asking you to. Like, that's still to be able to come up with that and put that out there, it's gotta mean something to you because you spent hours doing I know what you did. I know what it took because I
Mhm.
did that. And so
Yeah.
to it's I just wanna commend you for being brave in doing that because people don't realize what it really takes to produce that. It takes so
Yeah.
much work. It takes so much dedication even to get to the part where you were 90% there, right? And then to just even get that 5% might not seem like a lot, and it might in time not take that much to finish it out. But the guts it takes to say, "Hey, this is something I care about, and this is coming from me, and it's exposing, it's vulnerable." It's hard. So kudos to you because
Yeah.
that's hard. That's
Yeah.
hard to do.
Well, yeah, like every novel that, most people, if you're an author, you're probably making up characters. Yes. You're probably pouring yourself into the protagonist, taking your experiences, your emotions, and putting your characters in situations. And there's a lot of, I wouldn't say, minor mysteries. So there's people showing up dead and, you know, protagonists sometimes breaking the law, which readers don't like. Readers don't like certain things. So, but anyway, she had a good reason to do that. Because she was protecting people she loved.
That's
So,
right.
but I think in Digging Up Death, there's a teenage boy, and I actually had a teenage boy that was very difficult. It wasn't Anthony at the time, although, although Anthony had his own things, and
Didn't we
and
all? We
so
all did.
yeah, and in Cherry Blossom Capers, it's actually takes place in Washington D.C. It's I have one story, it's four stories in one, and my props again. Why not, right?
Yeah,
So I don't even think you can buy this anymore. But what I'm going to do is I have a short story in there. I'm going to repackage it and just sell it. That was a mystery. It was a 50,000 word mystery, and I had to cut it down to 20,000 words. Now, just let that sink
that's
in.
hard.
Yeah, I saw you. Yeah, so I learned. Well, I came up with a talk on how to cut the fat out of your whip, your work in progress. And but also I had to cut characters, I had to cut scenes, I had to cut everything. So I'm thinking about, do I want to publish the original? That would be a lot of
Mm.
work because I'd have to clean it up. But so you're talking about where story ideas come from. Digging Up Death. Did I show you that one yet? Sorry.
Yeah,
This is like,
it's so
uh,
cool. I
I
looked
love
at
the
them on
cover.
here.
Did you?
I'm gonna share the
So the premise
screen
with
as you're
that
talking.
one was we were studying ancient Egypt, and I was fascinated with the queen who named herself Pharaoh, Hatshepsut. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Mm.
She took the throne as a pharaoh, and her son, brother, you know how they had all that interrelational, I don't even know who he was. He was supposed to be the pharaoh, but he was too young. And he ended up trying to erase her from history. So her name's etched out on all these, artifacts. And at one point, they were looking for her. That you can't even find her mummy. It's gone. She's not in the Valley of the Kings, and she's not in the Valley of the Queens.
Huh.
And so I came up with this oh, and I think they did say that they found her body in a museum, in the Cairo Museum. But I said, was it her body? That's where the
Hey,
premise
and
came
there's the
from.
story comes from. There you
And there's
go.
a story all around that. And then this one,
That's
Buried
awesome.
Deception, like I said, you might be able to get an old copy. Um, Buried Deception takes place in Mount Vernon in Virginia when my kids were like 2, 4, 8, and 10. I was homeschooling, so we took this amazing East Coast trip because, what's better than making history come alive? So
Yeah,
we went up
I'm
the
going.
East Coast and we went to Jamestown and Yorktown, and I have really cute pictures of Anthony and all the costumes and everything. When we got to Mount Vernon, we're walking through the mansion, George Washington's mansion, for those who don't know. And I was looking at all the artifacts, and we came into the office, George Washington's office. And I was like, I wonder which are real artifacts and which are fake. And then the premise came to me, what if? It always comes in a what if. What if one of the artifacts they think is real is actually a fake? And that
Yeah,
like was a whole smuggling ring kind of thing. And then the
that's
last
awesome.
one, Golden Bells Are Ringing. So I create these mysteries. I want them to be simple, but they don't end up being simple. They end up being like two mysteries in one. So the premise with Golden Bells Are Ringing, all the writers had to have the name, a Christmassy name in the title. Um, and it needs to be set in the Colorado mountains. Now I love research. I would probably be a historical writer. And a lot of my that's another thing I forgot, that a lot of my mysteries come with history. If you notice,
So it's like
my
it's like
mysteries
it's
have a
like
little bit of
historical
history.
fiction. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's but set in present day time. So
That's
there's a
interesting.
backstory and a back mystery. So with Golden Bells Are Ringing, we had to, set something in the Colorado mountains. I'm like, what's so mysterious about the Colorado mountains? I was doing some research and I came across the Beale, Beale cipher. Now, from the gold rush in 1859. Now I heard of the 1849 California gold rush, but I didn't know there was one in Colorado.
Mm.
So I started doing some digging and I found out that this guy, Beale, had three ciphers. One was like what the gold was, where it was, and there was another cipher. But it's out there and it's never been, I think one of the ciphers have been deciphered, but he disappeared and nobody knows where the gold is. So that was my premise.
So you're
What
telling me
if,
there's actually there's a Beale treasure chest somewhere out there,
yeah,
and you
but no
stumbled
one
upon
can,
this?
yeah, no one can decipher one of the codes. And it was dropped off with a man on the East Coast. I don't know the entire story. And Beale was supposed to come back and pick it up, and he never did.
So then you
So
saw that and you're like, "I'm gonna write a mystery about that."
what if we found the gold, the missing gold of 1859? But we also have a modern twist. So there's a lot of
That's so cool.
there's a little bit of romance. It doesn't always end up nicely. Like if you're really a romance writer, romance readers want to have a happily ever after. I
Right.
mine are sometimes like that, depending upon the publishing house. But if it's mine are a little messier, like
Uh,
my own real
yeah,
life. It doesn't
yeah,
always end
because
so sweet.
life isn't happily ever after, life's just life.
Yeah,
So, hold on, so
exactly.
that's the next question. So you went through a publisher? 'Cause I just self-published, and so then now
Hmm.
you said you got those rights back, which is huge. That's one of the biggest
Yes.
drivers for nowadays. Now, self-publishing is
Hmm.
becoming so much more popular because of the
Right.
internet and social media that you can actually have a pretty successful self-published career and, like,
Right.
you know, obvious but you people don't know that you actually have to give up your rights to go through a publishing house, generally speaking.
Yeah, and you usually sometimes they just give you the books back, like I did for Digging Up Death. I think I did buy the cover because they made the cover, so I figured I can, sometimes they just give it to you. Sometimes you have to buy it back.
Mm,
But yeah, and like I said before, for me, I have not been promoting my fiction because I've been trying to build my life. And unless you are a prolific writer, you're not going to make money.
mm,
So now I'm just starting to pick up novels. I started again in 2016, and now this one is for a new generation. So I'm writing something called Angel Wars that I started in 2016 with a writing partner, and it was really a way to keep me writing through my divorce.
mm,
I never even met him in real person, but we started writing this story together, and it was more like a serial novel where I wrote one chapter, he wrote another, and it was about two Oklahoma kids who suddenly find out they're about on their 12th birthday. They start to have all these weird things happening, like these powers, and they don't know what's happening. And she has dreams and hears voices, and he has this like powers that are happening. And so the premise is basically uh, if you found out you were a descendant of a fallen angel.
mm.
So and basically
Oh,
the
that's
theme is
cool.
choice. So it's biblically based, and when I delve into biblically based things, it's like I get worried. I'm like, am I portraying it the right way? But it's fiction, and it's based on the Nephilim in the Bible, where the fallen angels from heaven, had babies with the humans. And so there's a lot of diluted blood in these fallen angels, right? And one sect has to kill the other sect. That's part of the Bible. And so the whole thing is choice. Like just because I'm a fallen angel, and I'm supposed to be evil, like my bloodline, does that mean
Mm.
that I have to be evil? And isn't that how a lot of humans deal with that? Just because my dad was a crack addict, not my dad wasn't, but
Yeah,
went to jail.
yeah,
Does that mean that I'm the same? No.
that's interesting. Now oh man, this is co-authoring is fascinating as well. But with the writing courses, so you're let me ask you about that because I also had questions about
Hmm.
this, and then I also have
Yeah.
questions about what you just launched, your dating,
Oh,
uh,
yeah. And
Tulsa
I've got
dating
more stuff we
adventures.
haven't even talked about.
Yeah, I know. This is see, I tell you, it just goes so fast. Okay,
Mhm.
when it comes to your writing classes, is your primary student age like are you teaching kids writing or is it for adults? Is it for like who are your students?
Yeah. Interesting you should ask. So, my primary age, the people that seek me out are 8 to 12, but I teach anywhere from 5 years old to 105 years old. So, I developed a program for the little
Cool.
ones because parents are like, "I have a younger student," I developed, strong sentences and the spectacular parts of speech. So there's a group of superheroes, and one superhero, Simon Subject, he has the power of the noun, the adjective, and the pronoun. And I teach kids, and 8 to 12 year olds, even adults don't know some of this stuff. How to write actively instead of passively. When you write a
Mm,
novel, you really want to bring it to life, and there is a technique that most people don't know. And then I did a soft launch of on a book coaching program. So right now I have one-on-one students primarily, but I'm working with my business coach to bring in more of a membership course where I
mm.
can coach fiction writers, mostly adults, because I do a lot of one-on-one with kids. I help this 10-year-old write and finish her novel, and that was pretty exciting. I love to do that.
Yeah,
That's one of my favorite things to do. But most people want nonfiction, they want essay writing. So I have a course for that too. That's not my first love, but there are definitely descriptive writing principles that nonfiction writers need to know, because everything's about story. The greatest salesman in the world, that
mhm.
is story. And how did he get those principles out? Through story, because story really engages people, it draws people in. But if you don't know how to write a story that actually hooks, your reader, it's just like reading a dry, boring newspaper. We just read the newspaper, or does it exist anymore? I don't know.
Yeah,
We read blogs for information, but when you get a story inside of you, that's where the message really sticks. And that's what
yeah,
I love about fiction.
yeah. That's so wow, I have so many things to say about that. That was so cool. First of all, yes, the our entire because sometimes I was reading a book called Until the End of Time by Brian Greene, and he's an astrophysicist, so he's a physicist, but I'm a big on that. But he talks about like the human race and why we started writing, which is really interesting take to hear from a guy who's like a math guy rather than like a writing
Mhm.
guy. But he's a brilliant writer, and he talks about, he goes, writing might have been the most important part. Really, storytelling is the most important part
Mhm.
of our history. It's what separates us from the monkeys, really, because
Yeah.
the opposable thumbs, they can use tools and they're intelligent as well. But what changed was our ability to communicate, and we started communicating by telling stories. There was no,
Mm.
there's no real need for us to talk. Like we were surviving just fine as a species, right? Like just like a gorilla is, right? They don't need to talk. They can go eat, they reproduce, and then they die later on, right? So there's no evolutionary need for you to like learn to communicate. But for some reason we did. And the biggest reason was because we started telling stories about, ancient times, about the sky, about whatever. And slowly but surely, those stories got passed down, and then we figured out that we could write them to continue their integrity, and so on and so forth. So anyway, all that to say, telling stories is the most human one of the most human things you can do is write a story, tell a story, and share it with others. I feel like that's really what
Yeah.
makes us like that's a human one of the biggest parts of the human essence, right? So I think that's really cool that you do that. And stories are everywhere. You were talking about the Augmentino. Did you know that he wrote those scrolls overnight? He had the story around it, and then one day he's just like, screw it, and he just like went locked himself in a room for 24 hours and he whipped those out. They
Yeah,
minimally
amazing. Yeah.
minimally edited afterwards. It was crazy.
Yeah, when it
So,
comes from your heart, and it just
inspired
flows.
writing. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so anyway, so all that to say, I think it's wonderful that you're helping people tell stories. That's what this podcast is about in a lot of ways. Is, hey,
Yeah, really.
what's your story? Like we did
Mhm.
this the only thing we have in common is we did this thing in college. And other than that, what happened
Yeah.
to you because of that? What happened to you since that? How did I
Yeah.
mean, in so many ways, it's intertwined, and that story is fascinating, regardless of who's on the other side of the screen for me. I think. So I think it's
Yeah.
just really cool. I just wanted to say that that's awesome that you do that, and that you're doing it for kids. That kids who, like you said, could have really, really amazing talent and really, really great creativity. And instead of like stifling that by saying, you know, go throw a football, you could be like, hey, you know what,
Yeah.
this is a good
You
outlet for
know
you. Do it. You know.
Yeah, and I love the parents who invest in their kids, because yeah, they invest in their kids' sports and all these other things. But around Christmas time is when my release the novel workbook. Basically, it's a do-it-yourself workbook,
Mm,
so you can take classes with me. But I know not a lot of people can do that, so I put all my entire class into a do-it-yourself form. So it sells really well because all the parents are like, "What can I get my kid or grandkid that loves to write. I can't help them. They're thinking this. And so they find my book. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. And we've seen that, right? We've seen that from selling books. That was one of those things that were like when we were selling books that I didn't expect to learn, but I did
mhm.
anyway. I used to expect to learn communication skills and all this stuff, but when I get there and you see these parents invest in their kids, right? You witness parents make a decision to invest in their kids' education and their ability to move forward and improve. That's really cool. And you see that every day. So that's pretty
Yeah.
exciting. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How did you decide to like, I mean, because the pandemic was and you said you kind of failed your way forward, right?
Mhm.
It was same thing with us. We started during the pandemic. But like what did you at what point did you go, okay, this is no longer failing my way forward. I know what I'm doing now. Like I got it. I got it down, I think. What happened?
I don't think I don't think I'm there yet.
Oh, really? That's
So,
amazing. I mean, I don't think I'm there yet either, but then people tell me, "Oh, the podcast looks so professional or it
mm.
sounds so good." I'm like, "I don't know. We're just doing the things we think make sense."
Yeah, well, so the rest of the story, as they say, 2020 was great, but and like I said, I doubled my income just in the summer. But guess what happened the next summer? Nobody wanted to sit behind the computer screen. So
Oh,
I
yeah,
was
'cause
teaching Spy Kids class 5 days a week. No, 4 days a week, 5 hours a day, whatever. The whole, 3 months. So that's a lot of classes. I can't even calculate. And then the next summer, I think I taught one course, one Spy Kids course, and
oh,
so
man.
everything shifted. So what worked in 2020 didn't work for 2021. I got more private students, less group classes, and actually, 2022 and 23 has been on the decline as far as group classes. So I just got tired of scheduling classes and having them cancel. So I just focused on one
Mm,
on one private tutoring. And I guess I could put my energy into trying to build that up again. There's just so many things I'm doing. Actually, in October, I just kind of crashed emotionally. I was just burnt out with everything. And I'm like, I was working with my business coach and we were, let's teach adults, nonfiction writers how to write books. And I'm just like he's like I'm like, "I don't wanna do anything anymore." I was at that point where I was so burnt out, it's like, "I don't wanna do anything anymore." So I rested, I recovered, and I just, I've been trying to spend October and November trying to get back to what really brings me joy and what I really wanna do because I know it was just an energy thing, and, now I'm just, I'm focused on the books again. I have all my little side things that I think all works together.
yeah.
I was trying to talk to my uh, coach, and I was like, well, what can really encompass everything I do? And it's called, I'm like, life balance coach. That kind of covers it all. So
Yeah. So now you're doing that? Like, so you're transitioning into that now?
well, that's kind of in the future. Everything I'm doing is going to be leading towards that. So right now
I
it's
see.
fiction writing. I really want to work on my own books. I really want to help other people work on their books. If you go on my social media, so in 2020, I also was tired of being physically tired of being tired, not taking care of my body, and so I reached out to a lady who was a health coach that I had done an interview with, and she lost 82 pounds and I had a little extra money in my pocket and I couldn't lose weight myself. I had gained, pre-pandemic, maybe just 12 pounds. But when you're short, 12 pounds is a lot.
Mm.
And so I was tired and exhausted. And I went on the program and I lost 25 pounds in 4 months. And
Wow.
I felt the best that I ever did. I had so much energy. And then people I'm on social media a lot. So I post and I try to post encouraging things just and so that's what I do now on the side too. I have some health clients. I don't have a ton.
Wow.
Um, but I'm back on my own. I kind of took a little break on working out, but today I got up early and I'm back on a schedule. I hired my own personal trainer because I know what to do, but I don't push myself hard enough to get the results I want.
Mm.
So my goal is to get back to where I was. I gain, we all gain here and there if we're not paying attention. Taco Tuesday,
Oh, yeah.
my birthday, Thanksgiving,
It just adds up.
vacation. Yeah. So maybe I got 5 to 7 pounds that I want to get off before Christmas. So that's my goal.
It's so interesting that Uh, the theme I always like to pull a theme of what's happening, but
Mhm.
you operate so well with accountability. That's really awesome. Like, when you find somebody to help you stay accountable, you it's like that's like your superpower in a lot of ways. That's awesome. That's,
Yes,
I a lot of people need that. A lot of people,
yes.
I think, are but they're not as self-aware like you are, where it's like, "Hey, if I get an accountability coach, I can do this." And then
Yeah.
it's a business coach and you get a health coach. But that's step 1 of acknowledging that in yourself is so hard, 'cause
Mhm.
most people think, "Oh, I know what to do. I don't need to do this." And
Yeah, but
no,
they
you
don't do
do
it
need that.
because
Yeah.
they get in their head. Yeah, and, like, just with the writing, I interviewed about 12 people, 12 of my friends that had compelling reasons for why they wanted to write their novel, but do you think anybody is?
No,
No, it's
they
like
don't.
that one person you definitely if need a writing group, a writing coach to keep yourself accountable. There's a lot of people that can do it on their own, and God bless them. I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
um, so that's great, and I encourage those people too. Everything I put out there. There's so many people that message me. They don't take coaching from me, but they say what you put out on social media has been very encouraging, and they've done their own journey, which is awesome because
Yeah.
that's what it's all about, just encouraging other people.
But the key there is, like, you're self-aware, like, knowing yourself enough
Mhm.
to be like, "Hey, I want an accountability coach for this, and I'm gonna get one, and it's gonna work." Like,
Yeah.
that's huge. Some people don't even have that. So, okay, so what is Tulsa Dating Adventures then?
Okay, so, I just I've been divorced for 7 years. Things started to go
Mm,
they were never good, but things started to, like, decline about 10 years ago. And, I was just fed up with there's so many people that, um, they're not doing the work to heal themselves, to become a better person. I've done a lot of work. There's always something that comes up that triggers, or, oh, wow, I didn't know that was a thing. And then you have to
mhm,
like go and look at, but there's so many people that don't. And so I was on the dating apps because, I'm working at home. I'm not really out and about meeting people. And it's hard at my age too. People are divorced 2 and 3 times. And
mm,
I was just tired of like, it seemed like a waste of time just not meeting the quality people or the flaky people or anyway. And so I had this idea, it wasn't Tulsa Dating Adventures, it was something else to kind of bypass the initial stages of what's your favorite color, what do you like to drink, and all that, and have actually people show up. So I have a therapist friend, and I was like, wouldn't it be great if we can find like real quality people? I'm not sure we're there yet, but because it's a different model that we went along with. But she's also was really, she jumped on board with, and I share a lot of things. I'm looking for people to partner with because I don't want to do it all myself.
mm.
And usually people are not as excited about doing, actually producing things, but I share a lot. And she was like, "Well, why don't we do an event thing?" Because she's really big on community service and galas and fundraising and all those things. So she's like, "Why don't we create an event?" And so I just jumped in, and that's part of the reason I think I got burnt out in October because in September I just was creating this Facebook page, Tulsa Dating Adventures. You can go check it out there. We haven't built out a website because we wanted to do more of an experiment. Is this
Yeah.
something I want to put my time into? Are people going to show up? So this is pretty fun. We had all these really fun ideas, and we wanted to do something different, not just your speed dating, because who wants to spend $25 to sit and talk to someone for 3 minutes or 6 minutes?
Right.
It's like that wasn't appealing to me. And who's going to show up? I don't know who you are. So I kind of meshed my love for mysteries and riddle making for our debut event, and it was called the Amazing Riddle Race because I like activities. So what I did was create riddles all over downtown where you'd have to find, food and drink and activities, and then I put people into teams, and everybody loved it. It was kind of crazy on the back
Whoa.
end, like they had a great time, and they're like, "When's the next one?" What did we do for the second one? The second one we partnered with. I don't know if you've heard of the Mrs. Roper Run. There's people all. Do you even know who
No.
Mrs. Roper is? Oh my
No.
goodness. Three's Company. Yeah, you're too young.
Or
Three's
too
Company
foreign.
was I'm
I'm either too young or too foreign. That's always my litmus test. But anyway, sorry. Three's
so So Three's Company was a '70s sitcom, and there was this lady with the red hair, and she became an iconic character. She's popping up. You'll see all these people, and she wears this like muumuu. It's called a caftan. It's very different than a muumuu. But you'll see her with the red hair and the muumuu caftans. There'll be groups of people all over town doing activities. So we actually partnered to raise funds for Eden Village, which is building what are they, small, tiny homes for the homeless. So my friend was doing that, and I thought, why don't we do a younger version for the singles, like a Three's Company? So we did a Three's Company scavenger hunt through downtown. So we had the, Mrs. Roper. It was a poker run, so you got to go to different restaurants and pick up cards. And then we had the Three's Company. It was a photo video scavenger hunt. I dressed in like a silver jumpsuit, try to do the '70s look, and we had teams running all over, a part of town, just having drinks. Like there was Chrissy and Love. We partnered with restaurants, which is really great too. Restaurants gave us discounts,
Yeah,
and we brought our people there.
as long as you give traffic to
So
yeah.
yeah, so we it's really small. It was a small group. We just a lot of the people, especially the women, are like, were there many men? The women are a little more. The guys show up. They just want to have fun. And the women are like, who's going to be there? Are there going to be enough men? And so last time we had 3 men to every female. So yeah, the men are there. Women, you just need to show up.
Yeah,
So we're trying to plan some things for the spring because holiday season is super busy.
that's really
It's a
cool.
lot of fun. It's a lot of work. I don't think there's a lot of profit in it right now.
Sure, but you'll figure it out.
So
That's interesting.
yeah,
Living in Portland, and people sometimes shit on Portland for, like, all the stuff that comes up on the news, even though it's like
yeah.
a lot of people, it's like, "I heard it's on fire." It's like, "Dude, get watch something else besides Fox." Like, it's fine. It's totally fine. Anyway, but that's the kind of thing that Portland's really, like, so about. There's, like, so many different kinds of events like that, and I didn't know that I think it's cool that you're doing it in another city because it's hard to find them in the Midwest and stuff like that. Events like that are
Right.
really memorable and really smart to do because it's against, like you said, it's just not like the typical speed dating. You're actually doing something creative
Yeah.
and awesome. That's so cool. That's
Yeah, so
awesome.
I think yeah, what makes this a little bit different than because I'm a part of friends groups and single friends groups, but it's not like people aren't there to always date. So everybody in our group is usually looking for someone or they're open to it, which is different than if you just go to an event. People don't know who's single, who's
Right.
not, who's looking, who's open. There's a lot of single people that don't want to date. And we're actually going to open it up to couples and those people as well. We'll just have identifiers. Maybe the people that want to date or wear a bracelet or something
Yeah.
because
You could do like a
there are
stoplight
a lot of
party.
couples. Yeah, a lot of couples wanted to attend as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You ever heard of a stoplight party?
no.
And at least I went to a couple of these in college, but if you it's like, red is you're in a relationship or you're just not looking if you were red. And if you were
Oh.
yellow, you could be open to it, but you're not sure. And then green is like single, ready to mingle. And so that
Yeah,
way
we were
you can
actually thinking about green for go. Yeah, so we
yeah,
had the bracelets and everything. We were
yeah,
anticipating that. So,
yeah. What happens if you get
yeah.
a couple shows up with green t-shirts? That'd be
Yes.
those happen in Portland.
That's a different yeah, we gotta start with the basics.
The
I can't
basics.
branch out to
Yeah.
all the things that
It
are
gets
out
too
there right
big.
now.
It gets too big.
It's
Nowadays, you don't even
complicated.
know. It's so complicated.
Yeah,
That is the thing that is true about Portland. It's just like, you oh my
yeah.
gosh, it is complicated. That's
So
so
here's the
cool.
one thing though, with the Tulsa dating adventure, I really did it to solve my problem because that's the basis of everything. And I don't know if it's solving my problem, because I'm not participating in the events. Now I'm running them, but I still get to meet people. I've been asked
Yeah.
out a couple of times. So,
There you go.
but I don't get to have the fun that they're having, but it is satisfying that I get to be creative because that's one of the things I need in whatever I do. I need to be creative and help people. So,
That's so cool. Well, the thing is, you
yeah.
never know, like, if you end up with even I always thought about it like this when I was selling books too, but it's like if one person and in your case, it'd be if 2 people find each other, and then that would
Yes.
be so worth it, for
Yes.
at least for them. and for you, like, I
Yep.
don't know, that sounds like it'd be fulfilling, in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. That's so cool. That the have you found that you're not at, like I can't so my parents are divorced, and divorce is
Mhm.
hard, so I'm sorry that you went through that because it's tough. Um,
Mhm.
but have you found that people have the same, obstacle of, like, how do I meet people? Like, is that what you're finding a lot of, people telling you? Or,
Yeah.
like, what have you learned from the people that come to your event about, like, where they're at in life and
Um, yeah, mostly, and honestly, maybe it's because it's the platform we've been using is Facebook, which I thought we were supposed to be like cross posting to Instagram. So the older people, I would say older, 40s, 50s, and 60s, they're the ones who've been showing up to our events, which
Mm,
is my age range. And some of them, okay, there's several different types of people. So I also belong to a group called Divorced Over 40, but it's basically just a fun party group for people who are divorced. They don't necessarily, are looking to date, but it's also very intimidating for introverts. So
mm,
we're getting people at Tulsa Dating Adventure, introverts, and that's one of the things we say, or I've been saying, is that everything we do at Tulsa Dating Adventure is intentional. You're not just left in a room with a bunch of people. We have icebreakers that force you or ease you out of your shell to go meet other people. It's like
mm,
the old college icebreakers to get to know people. So everything you do is you're partnered with groups and teams so that you're not just doing that awkward one-on-one speed dating. And then you get to see how people react in different stressful situations. Like if you're on a riddle hunt, there's going to be the one that's going to take charge, right?
mhm.
There's going to be the one that lays back. There's going to be the funny one. There's going to be the quiet one that solves all the riddles or finds the thing. So you can get to know people's personalities without having to the third degree. That's actually an icebreaker that I have. It's called the third degree, just to get to know people for fun. So there's the introverts, but then it's the people that just want to have fun. And yeah, if they find someone, that's great. If they don't find someone, that's okay too. There's been a lot of men just having, bro friendships, and ladies finding friendships. And the people that came to the first event, they came to the second event because they know how fun it is. And it's mostly the guys. They're just coming out.
That's
So it's
fascinating.
fun.
Super
Yeah.
fascinating. Wow. So cool. Well, we'll have to just have you back again and see how this whole develops because now I'm curious. I need to know.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Um, okay, do you mind if I jump into some Southwestern stuff?
Sure. Go ahead.
We just wind the clocks back. Okay, so you're sitting at
Hmm.
Oral Roberts. Where's the
Tulsa,
OR
Oklahoma.
in Tulsa?
Tulsa,
Oral
Oklahoma.
Roberts.
Yes.
I
That's
can
how
see
I got here.
my second language is English, and oral is hard to say. Oral Roberts University.
Yes.
Okay, so are you just hanging out, maybe in class or whatever? How did you first hear about Southwestern? Like what?
No, actually, it was after graduation.
Oh,
And it
really?
might have been, maybe it wasn't after graduation. It was before graduation because I did it after graduation. So I was a senior.
I see.
And I think it was my roommate. I think it was my roommate, and she was always the extrovert. I think she probably talked to a sales manager or a recruiter, one
Sure.
of the guys on campus who I later married. So, anyway, so I didn't want to do it because that was scary. I don't like to go and talk to people,
Yeah.
but I also am adventurous, and it seemed like a good idea. And I didn't know what I was doing after college, honestly. I had spent my senior year, first semester, on a mission internship in Africa for 8 months. So when I came back for my senior second semester in senior year, I was kind of like a little bit like I didn't even do a senior project in the United States. I basically did it. So I didn't have those internships in America. I did it in Africa. Didn't know what I was doing, didn't
Wow.
know what the next step was. I could have gone to what I really was planning on doing, was going to like film school. That was appealing to me, but I didn't want to take the tests to get into college, get into grad school. I just didn't know what I was doing. So, this seemed like a good idea.
And
And me and my roommate, we basically did everything together. She's blonde and 5'6". I'm brunette and 5'3", and people would always mistake us for each other. So,
interesting. But then
yeah.
you get out to sales school. to go to
Mhm.
and you're like, door to door? Like, how did you
I hated the memorizing thing. That was the thing. I still hate memorizing. It's probably really good for your brain. I probably need to do it more, but I don't like memorizing. And I just remember being scared all the time, just anxiety, just oh, here's an interesting thing. I think my first year, we were dropped off in Seattle, so pretty close. Um, but we didn't have a headquarters for 4 weeks. Like, we didn't have a
lovely.
stable headquarters for 4 weeks. Every single week, we were bouncing from headquarters to headquarters, right? And I
Love
still
it.
managed to hit, I don't know, whatever those awards were. I just remember being dropped off in the middle of a neighborhood.
Go knock. See you at
Yeah,
9.
so but here's the thing that I didn't know any better, which was a good thing. I just did what they told me, even though I was super stressful and I didn't like to do it, and I remember many times in between homes sitting on the curb just crying,
Yeah.
and then I wiped my eyes and I will persist until I succeed,
Yep.
and when I succeed, I will and then I just went on to the next house and knocked on the door, and then you get that one sale or something, you know, right before, a gravy, is that an
Yeah,
expression?
that is what
You
it's
have to
called.
keep for that. Um, that was hard too because, like, you don't wanna go back, but you also know that that's a good time, so
Yeah.
and the other
So
thing about Seattle was it rained, like, for a whole month, and that was
really?
an interesting experience. I didn't have a car, I was walking door to door, and I still have my rain jacket. It helped get you in the doors, though, I do know
Yeah.
that, you know?
The rain approaches? Oh, man.
Yeah,
I didn't know it rained that much in Seattle. I mean, I know it's
that
a thing. I know it's a thing, but people think it, like, rains every day, and it's like, it's not. In the summers, it's actually nice. It's just the winter, it rains a ton. But hold on a sec,
yeah.
hold on a sec, hold on a sec. So
Yeah,
you're in Seattle, you're selling door to door. So for people who don't or maybe haven't or for you might have a friend or something that listens that doesn't
mhm,
know what Southwestern was. We're talking about we're going 80 hours a week on straight commission, going door to door selling books. That's what we
yeah,
were doing. So
yeah.
pretty bananas. Did you get off to like a fast start? It sounds like you hit the awards and stuff. You still did pretty well, but do you remember like if you got better at it right away, or were you one of those like slow burners where sometimes people take like up
Um,
to the last few weeks to really start clicking?
I'm not no, I think it was a steady growth. All I remember focusing on was 30 demonstrations and,
Classic.
going back, gravy. Um, that's all I
And,
remember.
and it's
Like,
just
and
jamming,
that's what I did. And like I said, it was hard. I don't know if I got 30 every day. Um,
but it's tough.
but But I hit some things. I mean, I didn't know that I was doing well. I was one of the, I guess, top producers in the organization. So my first
Wow,
year in my
that's
little
super
organization.
cool.
But I was just following the rules. And what are these awards, the T-shirts, the not? It
Oh,
wasn't
yeah, you had,
Sizzler,
like,
was it?
President's
What?
Club, and you had, like,
Yeah, things like
chairmans and
that.
stuff. Yeah, 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 and
Yeah.
your Gold Seal Gold Award for, like, your first 3 weeks and all that stuff. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So I got all those T-shirts eventually. Yeah.
That's so
And I
cool.
made it in the book. I made it in the book with my
You
picture.
got to the Superstar book.
Yeah, I
You
did, 2 years in
wow.
a row,
Look at
so,
that. Look at that. That's not easy, and you hit Sizzler.
yeah. Yeah, 2 years, yeah.
That's wild. Now, so
Although my 2nd
do
go
you
ahead.
remember your, like I always ask, and if you don't remember, that's okay, but do you remember, like, your first store, the first time you remember, like, a customer or anything like that? Because I always think it's hilarious when some people really remember this, and it's, like, the
Mhm.
feeling that you get the first time someone buys and you leave the door and you're
Oh,
like, "Oh my god, it works." Like, these words, I just said the
yeah.
words and they
No. I have memories of, like, sitting in front of entire families, not wanting to go in the houses of, strange men,
Yeah, I can't
coming
imagine.
back, the objection and the pencil roll. Did you guys do the
Ah,
pen
yes.
roll,
Yeah.
answer the objections up front.
Yeah.
I followed the script, and I remember my heart pounding. That was the close was the hardest thing,
Yeah.
just because
You gotta be
you're like, no one's gonna buy,
relaxed.
no one's gonna buy, and you're like stressing on the inside, and then they buy, and it's like, wait a minute,
"Are you sure? You're gonna give me
it's
money? Oh my
crazy.
god, that's wild."
Yeah, and you just need one to really get back on track with your mindset and okay, this does work. And you don't need a million sales to do well. You don't need to sell every single day, you
No.
know?
You could just have
So,
a couple really good days a week and you're solid for the rest of the summer. Yeah.
yeah, it's
That's
just hard just knocking on that door, getting out of your head and not making it personal. I didn't really know about I knew in theory about mindset and regulating your emotions, but really I didn't know how to do that until like I started I took a program like I mentioned before, Landmark, that really opened it up. It really just made me realize that we make things mean what they don't mean. We're meaning making machines basically. It's like,
yeah.
why didn't he text, or what does he mean by this? And we create so much drama and so much stress in our lives, and oh, I knocked on that door and they said no. We make all these stories up. There, go back to stories. We make all these stories up that are not true. And I think I was listening to something the other day and it was like 8% of the things we worry about are only the things we need to worry about. The other like 92% we don't need to worry about.
Yeah.
But it's the opposite. We worry about the 92% that don't even exist.
Yeah.
So I learned, like, when I was upset, this is profound. So if you haven't heard this, listen up.
Right. Get ready to
Um,
write this down.
yes, we create our own suffering. How do we do that? We create our own suffering by focusing on the past, on the things that happened that we can't change, or worrying about the future. So, this is what I learned. If we can create our own suffering, can't we create our own joy? And how do you create your own joy? You just focus on what's in front of you. Is worrying going to help? No, you can only focus on, what Southwestern taught, just doing the next thing. What is the next thing you can do? What's the action you can take? But it takes a lot to first of all recognize that yes,
Mm.
I'm in pain. I'm uh, focusing on things, but if I could just bring my mindset to what's right in front of me. There were times after my divorce, didn't have money, didn't know anything about the future. I'm still dealing with the unknown. I'm a caretaker for my mother who has dementia, and there's a whole set of problems.
Yeah.
I don't know what my future is going to be a year to 10 years from now, and I can't make those plans. But after my divorce, I would crawl in bed exhausted, and I just tried to hold on to one thing I was thankful for, and I was thankful that I had a warm bed and I was safe.
Mm.
And all the other pain went away, and I was able to sleep. And so many people get stuck in that cycle of
Mm.
suffering, and it's not easy, but it's simple. Is that the expression?
Yeah. I mean, it's that is really is what it comes down to is just what because the past is already done, and then worrying about the
Mhm.
future is like having conspiracy theories about yourself is what I heard one time. It's like it's true.
Yeah, that's
Well,
good.
can't all be can't nothing's really as good as it seems or as bad as it seems in a lot of ways. Um, Dealing with grief is important, so that there's something to be said about that. But at the
Mhm.
same time, what you can do now, the action that you can take now is the most important. It's not that it's not
Yeah.
important to not grieve or to not plan, because you do have to think about the future in some ways. There's gonna be some goal
Yeah.
setting. There again, there's aspects to that, but what you're saying is the most important thing as far as what you can do is what you can do now. Like and if that's all you can do, then that's okay. If
Yeah.
you're grieving and all you can do is just go outside for 5 minutes and then go back inside to see the sun after just a quick do that. Just
Yeah.
that's
Well,
important. Like, just do
that's
that
how I
part.
felt in October. I mean, I didn't wanna do anything. I just needed to rejuvenate. I was just burnt out. And yeah, it's just not getting stuck in the past and not getting
Yeah.
stuck in the future. I also say, feel, because I'm definitely encourage feeling and not stuffing your emotions.
Oh, yeah.
Feel, deal with them, and then heal. So
Yeah.
that's another thing that I promote.
Yeah.
And
That's emotional intelligence. That's really good. And
mhm.
that's not taught as much as,
And
logical
that's hard to
intelligence.
find in the dating world,
Oh, yeah.
emotional intelligence. That's my biggest complaint. There's so many people out there my age, they don't wanna connect emotionally, you know? So
Yeah. And it's tough too, right? Watching my parents divorce, this is way total tangential from Southwestern, but just based on what you just said, like
yeah,
the emotional intelligence is being able to deal with your emotions. And then I think the next level is being able to deal with other people's emotions. Cause that's also
mhm,
really tough. You know,
yeah.
it's hard enough to rein your own in, you know, in general,
Yeah.
right? let alone like your spouse or your kids or some, your coworkers, they have emotions and you have to learn to deal with them because maybe they suck at dealing with them. So
Yeah,
besides,
and
or maybe you suck at dealing with your own and that's step one is learning that. And I think there's a third step is once you figure out how to master yours and master other people's or how other people's affect you, then there's like how to influence other people's emotions, right? So then it's like doesn't mean you're controlling them. It just means, hey, if I can be a positive person and and I'm good
mhm.
at that, and it might rub off in the right way, kind of like a Ted Lasso does, where it's like you are so well in tune with how you're feeling and how other people are feeling that you can use that to kind of lead by example in a lot of ways. So it's
Yeah.
hard, but it's all that stuff is really hard, and they don't teach that anywhere. That's not really something
No,
that
and
you learn.
we don't even learn it from our families because I grew up in a New York Italian and family, and it's very typical. You have the high emotions. Everybody's reactive. Well, you have two types: the reactive ones, and then the ones that don't say anything because they
Yeah,
know I wasn't the one that didn't say anything. So that was one of the problems in my marriage. Is like I couldn't regulate my emotions. I was so used to just reacting to everything, and then everybody loved each other afterwards. Everybody forgave each other, but not all families work that way.
no,
And it wasn't until after the divorce, and then I saw it more through Landmark, where I was able to really understand it, and really respond instead of react, which it's not taught,
Mm,
especially if you didn't learn it and then you pass it on to your children and they just continue the cycle until someone realizes this isn't working
yeah,
and something needs to change. Someone
but
needs to do the work.
but that could be generational. That
Mhm.
that sucks. So yeah. Um,
Yeah.
Real quick, back to Southwestern stuff. Why did you decide to come back, and then why did you decide to leave? Because you came back for another summer. So
Yeah,
so
another summer, probably because I didn't know what I was doing with my life either. So might as well
fair.
make a couple of thousand. I mean, I think I still have my plaques somewhere.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, back then, I wanna say, I don't know, I can't even remember, maybe 7,000 the first summer, maybe 14 the second, I don't know,
Which is not bad for leaving
or
like
10,000.
1991 leaving college. That's a pretty solid summer.
Yeah, I mean, it paid for my wedding. So,
Yeah.
I think that's another reason I got married, to a Southwestern person, and, then that was it. I didn't wanna come back. It was hard, it was hard.
That is
Um
tough.
Yeah.
The
So I
summer,
respect people that do more than 2 summers.
it's
Because I think
it's wild.
the second summer, you wanna kinda prove it to yourself that it wasn't a fluke, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there's also the aspect of like you said, which I didn't know what else to do, and this worked. But were you one of those people
Yeah.
that felt? I mean, and sometimes people don't, and sometimes people do. Were you a person?
Sure.
Where you consider yourself a person that like experienced a lot of growth or change, positively or negatively, because of that experience,
Uh,
because of selling books?
oh, yeah, I'm sure, and I also was recruiting people at that time too. Trying to think if anyone ended up going, maybe 1 or 2 people might have, ended up going. It's all growth. I mean, just pushing yourself to do something you don't wanna do, that's growth. I mean, I had people in my little organization who basically, people I was close to, that they were standing up there with the awards, but it comes to find out they were not selling the books and they were not remitting and ended up in
Oh,
trouble.
they were patters. Love them.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
but
were
and it
padding their
it
stats.
was and that, that was also an eye opener too. I didn't know that that was a thing and that could happen. I just assumed everybody just did what was supposed to be, like I was doing. Um, but yeah, tons of growth. And like I said, hey, it launched me into wanting to write. In fact, um, that's about the year I started my first novel. Like
Oh, that's
that,
interesting. Right,
yeah,
right after that. That's interesting.
yeah, pretty much.
Kinda cool. Dang, that's
Yeah.
so fun. That is so cool. I appreciate all that. Now, I'm gonna ask you really quick some rapid fire
Hmm.
questions that might trigger
Okay.
some memories here, and then we'll go into some ponytails, and
Okay.
that's solid. Okay, so rapid fire question number 1. What was your favorite place you sold? Now, you sold in Seattle, so in Washington. What was the other place, your 2nd summer?
The other one was Idaho Falls, and they were both beautiful because I was
Oh,
from So what I really liked about Idaho Falls, well, the
Those
mountains. We
mountains,
went,
yeah.
yeah, but there were mountains I was in Everett, Washington, so we went to Mount Rainier, I
Yeah.
think. Everett, Idaho Falls, they were more the Stone Mountains. What was really, I was actually had a car that summer, so I was in the country, and everybody, they were Mormons, so everybody was related to everyone else. I'm like, look, so and so got the books. Look, so and so got the
The
books.
names worked.
So that was good with that. I remember just the traveling was hard to get to, the meetings and the things like that. Um, each year had a different set of hard. Um, I remember the hardest part was being dropped off by my the very first time in, I think it was Idaho Falls, or I don't know, one of the cities. It could have been the very first year. No, it was the very first year. Um, They needed to go do something, so they dropped me off at a headquarters that we were gonna take a look at. It was dark at night, it was probably in the ghetto, honestly.
Oh,
So I'm
man.
in this little apartment by myself waiting for the realtor to show up. It's dark, no cell phones, no phone. My team went to get food or something, and I remember just, like, being overcome with emotion and just crying, and I let myself cry for, like, 30 seconds, and then I said, "Okay, now what are we gonna do next? What get to work," you know?
Wow.
So that
That's
just
wild.
was
That's
interesting
hard to pick
experience.
between the 2 because Idaho Falls is beautiful with those mountains.
Yes.
It's tough to pick.
Both beautiful, yeah.
Yeah. What was your favorite kind of turf? Do you remember, like, country, or did you like selling in the
Hmm.
suburbs, or did you like selling with, like, big brick, like the rich big brick people, or did you have a particular.
Yeah, I think, again, when you're dropped off and you don't have a car, what can you do? You're in a neighborhood, maybe you can walk to McDonald's, but that might be far away. So I had my lunch bag and I sat on the curb eating. So I couldn't get off schedule as much. I mean, you still can. Um, But in the country, people, that had a whole set of things with the cars. It was stressful just trying to figure out the cars and the potholes and driving a mile to get to someone's house. But the people were warm and friendly. And like I said, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I think I like the country.
Yeah,
The
country is the
people in
best.
the country, and they were very friendly. Of course, the Mormons in Idaho are super friendly. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, with the car situation, and that was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, did you listen to advanced sales tapes?
I probably did. Can I remember what they are? I don't know. I remember some songs playing on the radio, and I remember one story from sales school that has always stuck with me. I don't know if you guys heard the story. I don't know who told it. Tremendous Jones, or I don't know. All these names are popping out, but it was the story of, they were twins
Yeah,
who were each given,
Mort Utley.
yeah, was it more Utley?
Yeah,
Each
that's
given
where
a
the
room,
name of this
right?
podcast comes from.
Oh, that's awesome. It's like one kid had all the luxuries, the skateboards, the, pinball machines, the skates, and he was miserable. Like he couldn't, he'll fall down and get hurt if he got on the skates.
Yeah.
And then the other kid has, like, he's in a pile of manure, right? The room is just filled to the ceiling in manure, and he's just digging through it and having a great old time. And the person asks him, why? And he's like, well, with all this crap, there's got to be a pony in here.
Yep,
Ponytails,
that's
right?
right. That's
That's the
exactly right.
thing that has stuck with me.
Isn't that hilarious how that works? So
Hmm.
the good old
Because
Mort
it's a
Utley address.
story.
Yeah, it's a
It's a
great
story.
story. You can find the full thing on YouTube, by the way. The
I
full.
probably still have, like, the cassette tapes, honestly,
It's
really.
amazing. It's amazing.
So,
Your
yeah.
favorite HQ, if you can remember.
I've had so many in just the 2 summers. I remember the first year, I think we got to spend a month with a alumni. That was cool, but I do remember, I think it was my 2nd year, we spent it with a sweet old lady, and I just have, really warm memories of that.
Yeah,
And then one year,
old
I think
lady
we
HQs
were,
are the best.
yeah, and then we were by ourselves. Like I said, we hopped around a while. I don't think she could keep us for very long, so we were kinda like, I guess the Israelites.
You're like the
Just
nomads,
yeah,
the book
exactly.
nomads.
Yeah.
Okay, favorite breakfast spot, if you can remember that.
I don't know, but I really enjoyed the big breakfasts.
Yeah.
So, the eggs and the
Classics.
pancakes
Oh, yeah.
and,
Get it
didn't
get full.
enjoy the cold showers, but, you know.
Yeah, the cold showers and the execs.
Oh,
Not
yeah, I didn't like execs either. I'm like, "Okay, I'm an introvert and we're looking like fools out here," but I'm sure I did it. Yeah.
oh, execs are an interesting part of the culture of South
Yes,
Carolina.
there you go.
Um, okay, did you have a follow day that comes to mind that you liked a lot?
Um, maybe, I can't remember. I think I remember maybe Keith Gullion, maybe. I don't remember, but yeah,
Those days are
just
fun.
being just being in awe of people and letting them do the work, that was fun too.
Yeah, when just watching someone just crush, you're like, "What the hell? How are you doing this?"
Yeah,
It's kinda wild.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have a favorite off-schedule story? And by the way, if you can't remember some of these, that's okay, but
Yeah,
it's
no,
worth
I mean,
asking.
just I think what I've mentioned before, nothing specific. I don't think we ever went somewhere. First year, I didn't have a car, just sitting on the corner crying,
Yeah.
just journaling. I probably have my old journals and just getting my emotions out and then getting up and knocking on the next door. That's pretty much what I did. I can't remember what I did when I had the car. But yeah,
That's
nothing
all
comes to
good.
mind.
And then the most famous person you met, or if you met
Oh
somebody. Some
gosh.
people didn't meet anybody famous, but it's worth asking because
I don't
sometimes you get some really good ones.
Yeah, I don't think I did.
All
Nope,
good?
just pretty ordinary.
All
Yeah.
good. Great solid summers. Okay, so now this point of our show, we go into our ponytails. Now, this is typically where we ask our guests to share like the most memorable story that they have or anything that just really sticks out to them from their time selling books. Kind of like the ponytails or the pony manure story, that kind of stuff that like what still sticks with you after all this time. And so I'll leave it to you, Gina. You give us your ponytail or anything closing thoughts, anything like that that you want to share. Go for it.
Yeah, I think I probably like shared a little bit. I remember, just the biggest thing that impacted me was the people and the training. Dave Causer, I remember him. And like I said, the Og Mandino book, because that just really launched me into wanting to write fiction. Before that, I didn't know what I was doing. It's just the power of the story, and I don't know, I don't remember anything specific, but I'm sure, just getting to meet people on the book field and hearing their stories, because everybody had a different story. It could
Mm,
be the homeschool mom, it could be the person who didn't have money for food, but they're going to buy the books, because they really want their child to succeed in life. It's those kind of stories that parents were willing to invest in their kids' education to really give them more than they had. And I think it's just meeting the people and seeing the family dynamics and how the parents and even some of the kids were really excited
yeah.
about what we had to offer. And that's really important too, because if you don't believe in what you're doing, it's gonna come across as that.
Yeah, and people can tell. It's like people know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
definitely.
Hey, that's solid.
Oh, and then delivery. Delivery is always the best because then you haven't seen people in 2 months and you get to bring the books and most people are like, "I didn't even think you were gonna show up," that
Yeah,
type of thing. So
yeah.
that was super exciting to just get that to deliver the books.
I
Yeah.
love that. That is so cool. That's so cool. And then you had a kid that sold. Was Anthony the only one
Yeah.
that sold?
Yes, he's the only one that did a lot of things. He's my overachiever, yeah, and, I think he did 2 summers. I'm not sure how many
Yeah,
summers he did,
and
and I don't even know why he did it. He was recruited at a different school too, so.
but did he know that you did it? Like, did you tell him about your
Um,
experience doing that, or was that more like, it's just a thing I did in college?
it he might have known, but it was nothing that I think a couple of years maybe we had, Southwestern students come through and we probably, gave a talk or tried to help them find a place to stay and things like that. So we might have seen it a couple of times, but not really. We didn't talk a whole lot about it.
You weren't, like, waking him up with cold showers and telling him to talk in
No,
some closet and
no,
all.
or execs in the morning before school, no.
Oh, that's fair
Oh,
enough. That's awesome.
yeah.
Man, well, Gina, this has been a great time. Thank you so much for stopping in and
Yeah.
hanging out with me. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely, it's been fun.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
all right, everybody, listen up. So, if you guys want to go find Gina, learn a little bit more about what she's doing, maybe you sold in the same time and you're like, oh my gosh, I remember Gina. I want to say hello. You can go to ginaconroy.com. She's also on Facebook. You can find her on different social media platforms. We'll put the link to her website down below and the link to her books if you guys want to get a little bit more information on that. Just scroll down on the description notes below for the episode and you'll find it there. Make sure you go check out our Patreon and go support us. Please follow, like, and all that stuff. It means a lot, a lot, a lot to us. So, thank you so much for your support, Gina. Thank you again for being here. This has been a blast.
Yes, it's been fun. Thank you.
Absolutely, I'm excited to record with Anthony again tonight. So we'll let
I
him
know
know how
that's
this went.
crazy.
All right, guys. Well, my name is Andres Gamboa. We'll get out of here now. Thank you so much for listening. Bye, everybody.